Chapter 71 of JinPingMei Original Version. Lipinger and the He family asked for a dream, and asked the executioner to introduce the court ceremony. It was said that Simon King and He Qianhu came back and walked to the street. He Qianhu invited Simon King to his house for a meal. Simon King insisted again and again. He Qianhu ordered his men to hold Ma Huan and said, "The student has something to discuss with the superior." So they went to the house and dismounted. By sea and by carried the box and went to Chui Zhongshu's house. It turns out that He Qianhu is waiting for a banquet with wine at home. Entering the hall, you can see the beasts burning with charcoal and the golden stove filled with incense. There is a seat in the middle, a seat at the bottom to accompany it, and another seat at the east end next to it. They are all piled with exotic fruits and flowers in golden vases. Simon King asked, "Sir, who are the guests at today's banquet?" He Qianhu said, "My father-in-law is off work today. How dare you give me a meal?" Simon King said, "Sir, if you bother with this, it is not the feeling of colleagues." He Qianhu said, "My father-in-law is condescending to me, so don't blame me, sir. Eat while watching tea." Simon King invited his father-in-law to see him, and He Qianhu said, "My father-in-law will come out soon." After a while, Eunuch came out from behind, wearing a green velvet python coat, a crown hat, soap shoes, and a gemstone ribbon ring. Simon King bowed 4 times. "Please, father-in-law, accept the gift." Supervisor he refused and said, "I can't do it." Simon King said, "The student and Tianquan are the same as juniors, and their husbands are both virtuous and well-educated. They are also of high rank, so it is natural that they should receive the gift." After speaking for a long time, Supervisor he received a half ceremony and asked Simon King to sit down. He, the chairman, accompanied him, and He Qianhu sat beside him. Simon King said, "My dear, I absolutely cannot do this. Colleagues should not sit aside. My husband is just an uncle and nephew. Students cannot do this." Eunuch was overjoyed and said, "Your Excellency knows etiquette very well. Come on, sit down next to me in my old seat in the pavilion and let the officials accompany you." Simon King said, "Now, students can sit comfortably." So everyone sat down according to their positions. Eunuch he said, "My children, let's burn some more charcoal. It's very cold today." After a while, he took a bag of fine charcoal ground with water and poured it into the brazier. An oil paper warm curtain was put down in front of the hall, which was covered by sunlight and was very bright. Eunuch he said, "My lord, please relax your attire." Simon King said, "The students don't have any clothes on, so they can be bought at a low price." Eunuch he said, "Don't take it away." Ling Zuo took the clothes and said, "Bring me the flying fish green velvet cloak, and put it on with your excellency." Simon King smiled and said, "How can a student wear the old gentleman's official clothes?" Eunuch he said, "My lord, you only wear them. What's the matter? Yesterday Longlive gave me a python suit, and I didn't want to wear it anymore, so I gave it away. Just cover your clothes, adults." After a while, the left and right people brought them up. Simon King ordered Diane to take the leader, put on his cloak, and bowed to him. He also invited He Qianhu Yaquan to sit on the roof with him. After bringing another dish of tea to eat, Eunuch he said, "Call the boys." It turns out that the family taught 12 boys how to play the instrument, and 2 teachers led them to kowtow. Eunuch he ordered people to have fun, and then handed them wine and sat down. Eunuch he personally held the lamp, and Simon King said in a panic, "My dear, please do me a favor. I have a superior to do it for you. It's just a matter of placing the bells and chopsticks." Eunuch he said, "My lord and I will give each other a minute. I am an official for the first time in my career, and I don't know the depth. I hope you can support me in everything." "That's love," Simon King said. "What did my husband say?" As the saying goes, colleagues are friends for 3 generations. Students also rely on my husband Yu Guang. Why not help each other? Eunuch he said, "It's easy to talk. Easy to talk. We work together on the king's affairs and support each other." Simon King didn't wait for him to hand over the wine. He just took the cup and took it to the table. He then offered a cup in return and placed it on He Qianhu and his eunuch table. They bowed to each other and sat down. After the playing, 3 boys from the normal school sang a set of Zhenggong, Duanzhao, visiting Jiaopu on a snowy night, and Crystal Palace shark tissue tent before the banquet. Finished singing, after drinking for a few rounds. We had 2 meals, looked at the night sky, and put on the lamp. Simon King called Diane to take the rewards to the kitchen servants and play music on various servants. Then he stood up and said, "I have been harassing you for a day, so I will go back." The father-in-law was willing to let it go and said, "I am getting off work today and want to ask you for advice. There is a big banquet. I just sit down and teach you how to endure hunger." Simon King said, "I have received such a delicious meal from my husband. How can I say that I will be hungry?" The students will go back to rest, and tomorrow morning they will go to Tianquan to visit the military department, so that they can receive the letter and pay the registration. Eunuch, he said, "Since you want to work with my colleague who is an official, why don't you bring your luggage to my house for 2 days? There are several small rooms in my back garden, which is very quiet, so I will work with my official in the morning and evening. It's more convenient for you to take care of some official business, rather than being at someone else's house." Simon King said, "It's best here. It just makes Duxia feel weird and alienates him." Eunuch, he said, "I can't say. Nowadays, if you don't work as an official in the morning and don't sing in the evening, the Yemen is a puppet show Yemen." Although we were colleagues with him at the beginning, today the former official has left, and the later official has taken over the business and cooperated with him. He has nothing to do. If he says this, he is an ignorant person. I will definitely sit with you all night today and will not let him go. Calling to the left and right, "Hurry up and put a table in the room downstairs. I'll take care of the food and wine for you, Mr. Simon. I've sent a few people from my family to move all the luggage with him immediately." He also ordered, "Clean the back garden and the west courtyard clean, prepare the layout, and put a charcoal fire in the kang." After a call from the hall, Bai Nuo agreed to go downstairs. Simon King said, "My husband is very kind," but the student offended Jiagong. Eunuch, he said, "Now that he has left the Yemen, he is no longer in his position and does not pursue political affairs. He is in charge of the affairs of his Luan Jiaku, but we can't handle the affairs of the prison. No wonder it's you." Without any explanation, he sent Diane and others to have dinner and wine, and sent a few military prisoners, each with a rope to carry them, and went directly to Chue Zhongshu's house to move their luggage. Eunuch, he said, "One more thing to bother you, sir. When my official arrives at his post, he hopes that you will look after the house for him so that he can move his family home. Now I will teach him to go with you, and then he will find a house. I have to send my family to get up. There are not many people. There are only 20 or 30 people in even a few rooms." Simon King said, "My husband asked me how much money we should pay for the house." Eunuch, he said, "It will take 1,000 gold to live in the house outside." Simon King said, "Jia Long, she can't go to the capital. He has to live with a house. Why don't my husband live with Tianquan and get the best of 2 birds with 1 stone? There are 7 rooms in the front of this house. On the bottom 5th floor, you can enter the hall through the Yemen. It has side rooms on both sides, antlers roof, a house and a flower pavilion at the back, and there are many group houses round it. The streets are wide, so Tianquan is a good place to live." Eunuch, he asked, "He wants a lot of money?" Simon King said, "He told me that it was originally 1,300 taels, and he built a bungalow at the back and tidied up a flower pavilion. If my husband wants it, he can do it. It's just as much as my father-in-law and him." Eunuch, he said, "I'll leave it to you, sir. I'll just follow your advice. While I'm at home today, I'll send someone to talk to him and ask him for the original document. I'll have a look at it. It's rare to find this house. I'm an official in my family. There is a refuge." After a while, Diane and others were seen carrying their luggage and talking to each other. Simon King asked, "Have Bai Si and Wang Jing come?" Diane said, "Wang Jing came first with his suitcase and luggage. There is also a sedan chair. Bai Si was asked to guard it." Simon King whispered in his ear, "In this way, I asked Father Jia to borrow the original deed of the house there. My father-in-law wants to take a look. Come with Bai Si." This Dan responded accordingly. After a while, Bai Si, wearing a green hat, and Diane took the documents back to Simon King and said, "Daddy Jia Duo wrote. Since my father-in-law wants it, how can we negotiate the price?" The original documents have been brought. They have also packed and added them to make money. I've learned a lot. Just follow Dad's advice. Simon King read the original deed and eunuch personally, and saw that it said 1,200 taels on it, and said, "I must have lived in this house for several years. It is a bit messy, let alone cleaning it up, for your majesty's sake." The original price was returned to him. That Bensi hurriedly knelt down and said, "What Mr. he said is true. Since ancient times, there has been a saying, the envoys make money, and the farmland is managed. Houses that have been built for thousands of years have been replaced by hundreds of owners, and they have to be demolished and cleaned every time." Eunuch listened and liked it. "Where are you from? You are good at talking. It is said that those who achieve great things do not hesitate to tip, but what they are actually saying is, 'What name does he teach?' Simon King said, "His name is Baisi." Eunuch said, "Well, if there is no suitable candidate, you can be the successful candidate and get the documents for me. Today is a good day, so just exchange the money with him." Simon King said, "If it's tonight, we can just wait for tomorrow." Eunuch said, "I will go in early at 5 o'clock, and the court will be held tomorrow. Why don't you just hand over the money to him today? And that will be the end of the matter." Simon King asked, "When will you come out tomorrow?" Eunuch said, "When Zishi came out to the altar, the drums were used for sacrifice at the third watch. Yin Zheng returned to the palace at the moment. After setting up the meal, he went out to set up court and ascended to the main hall to congratulate the world. All the ministers came to pay their respects to the winter. The next day, all civil and military officials had a banquet to celebrate the success. Whenever you are an official in foreign affairs, it will be fine if the imperial court introduces it." After finishing speaking, Eunuch ordered He Qianhu to go to the back and take out 24 large ingots. They carried them in food boxes and sent to family members to escort them to Chui Zhongshu's house for delivery together with Bai Si and Dan. When Duke Xia saw the silver brought, he was filled with joy. He immediately wrote a deed with his own hand, paid it to Ben Si, and handed it over. Eunuch. He was overjoyed and rewarded Ben with 40 taels of silver, and Diane and Wang Jing with 3 taels each. Simon King said, "The family of a child should not reward him." Eunuch said, "Buy something with him randomly." The 3 of them kowtowed in thanks. Eunuch ordered the food and wine to be taken care of, and then sang 2 more songs to Simon King. "It all depends on the Lord's peripheral vision." Simon King said, "It's better to look at my husband's golden face." Eunuch said, "I hope you will tell him to vacate the room as soon as possible so that the young man can get up." Simon King said, "The student must tell him to teach him to leave early. After the officer leaves, he will stay in the Yamen Palace for a few days. When his family moves to Beijing and is cleaned up, it will not be too late for the officer and his family to get up." Eunuch said, "It's just a matter of packing up until the Chinese New Year. It's better to send the family away first. It's very inconvenient to be in the Yamen." While they were talking, the weather had already changed, and Simon King said, "My dear, please range it. The students are too drunk." Supervisor he made a speech and went back to rest. He Qianhu taught family music, how to play and sing, and even had a meal with Simon King before getting up and sending him to the back garden. There are 3 academies, terraces, lakes and mountains, bonsai flowers and trees. Candles burning high in the rooms, and musk cakes burned with incense inside the seals. It is very elegant. He Qianhu chatted with Simon King, watched and ate. Then Feng Dao settled down and returned to the back. Simon King took off his crown and sash, and dressed and went to bed. Wang Jing and Diane dismissed it and went down to rest on the heated kang. Simon King, a drunken man, sleeps beside his pillow, tossing and turning when he sees the full moonlight through the window. For a long time, I only heard the heavy night leaks, the silence of the flower shades, and the cold wind making the window paper make a sound. I have been away from home for a long time. Just as he was about to call Wang Jing to come in and sleep with him, he suddenly heard a woman's voice outside the window in a low voice. She immediately put on her clothes and got out of bed. put on her shoes and socks, and quietly opened the door to look at her. I saw Li Ping'er, a misty servant girl with light makeup, a white old shirt covering her snow-covered body, soft yellow socks and Bao's shoes, walking lightly on lotus steps, standing under the moon. When Simon King saw him, he took him into the room, hugged each other and cried, saying, "Enemies, why are you here?" Li Ping'er said, "I have been looking for you here. I tell you, I have already found a house, and I am here today. As soon as I see you, I will move there sooner or later." Simon King asked hurriedly, "Where is your room?" Li Ping'er said, "It's not far away. From the main street to the east, it's in the middle of Zoofu Lane." At the end of the day, Simon King cuddled up with him and went to bed with each other. It was extremely pleasant. Already dressed and tied into a bun, lingering round, Li Ping'er warned Simon King, "My brother, remember not to drink late at night and go home early. That guy will do you harm from time to time. Don't forget it." After saying this, he took Simon King away. Walking out of the street, I saw the moonlight was as bright as day. Sure enough, I turned east and passed the archway. When I reached an alley, I saw a double white door, which pointed out, "This is the home of slaves." After finishing speaking, he stepped in. Simon King hurriedly pulled it forward, and suddenly realized that it was JinPingMei. But I saw the moon's shadow across the window and the reflection of the flower branches. Simon King touched the bottom of the mattress and saw that semen was flowing all over the mat. The lingering fragrance was lingering on the quilt, and the residual saliva was still sweet. It's too late to pay homage and I'm extremely sad. Exactly. The jade sky is faintly covered with frost, the window is sparse, and the moon is pale. And the dream soul is frightened. Sleeping in a desolate and boring place. I hate to kill the cold chicken, but refuses to crow. Simon JinPingMei couldn't sleep and couldn't wait for dawn. Wait until dawn, fell asleep again. The next morning, He Qian, whose servants got up to wait on him and sent Simon King to wash up. He Qian, who came out early to accompany him, drank ginger tea and set the table for porridge. Simon King asked, "Why is my father-in-law missing?" He Qian, who said, "My father-in-law has been in since the 5th watch. Bring the porridge in a moment." After eating the porridge, I got a cup of meatballs, wontons, egg brain soup. While eating, he ordered the horses to be prepared. He Qian, who and Simon celebrated their crowns, and their servants followed them. They went inside early to see the military department. After coming out, He Qian, who went home in separate ways, and Simon King went to Xiangwo Temple to pay homage to Elder Jian. The elder stayed again to prepare the meal. Simon King only ate one snack and gave the rest to his men to eat. Then he got up and walked across East Street to go to Cui Zhongshu's house to pay homage to Jia Longxi. Because I passed by Zoofu Alley, I saw double white doors in the middle, just like what I saw in my dream. Quietly, Diane asked the tofu seller Lao Ji next door, "Whose family name is this?" Lao Ji replied, "This is Conductor Yuan." Simon King was amazed. When he arrived at Cui Zhongshu's house, Jia Gong went out to pay his respects. When he saw Simon King arriving, he quickly ordered his horses to be led to the hall, where he bowed and bowed. Simon King ordered Diane to bring him a congratulatory gift, one end of blue woven gold damask lining and another end of colored satin. Mr. Jia said, "The student has not paid his respects to the chief yet, so he has to give the gift first. Yesterday, I was troubled in the small room. I can't thank you enough," Simon King said. "Yesterday, Uniki talked about looking at the house. I wanted to see this house because of the honor. Mr. He asked for the house deed and went to see it, and the price was restored at one glance. If he was a minister, he immediately built the bridge. It's done. It's a great blessing for you." After saying that, the two of them laughed. Jia Gong said, "He Tianquan, I haven't returned to worship him yet." Because he asked. "He is just going to accompany the superior," Simon King said. "He has decided to go with his students. He is young and will stay later." Yesterday, his husband and father-in-law paid a lot of compliments, so I asked you to vacate the house earlier and move in with your family. He will stay in the Yemen for a few days now, that's all." Jia Gong said, "The students are not willing to stay here for a long time. When they find a house here, they will have someone move to their home. They will only wait until the moon comes out. After saying that, Simon King stood up and left a greeting note with Shui Zhongshu. Duke Xia sent him off to mount his horse and returned to He Qian's house. He Qian, who already had lunch waiting for him, Simon Qingshi told the story of paying homage to Duke Xia. It's already the moonrise to vacate the house. He Qian, who was overjoyed and thanked him. This shows the great kindness of the chief. After dinner, the two of them were playing chess in the hall when they suddenly came to report. Dad Sai from the mansion has sent someone to send Chang down. He has been captured by Mr. Chui, who sent him here. So he took the post and read it. And it read, I would like to present 1 end of gold satin, 1 end of cloud mingning, 1 mouthful of fresh pig, 1 mouthful of northern sheep, 1 jar of internal wine, and 2 boxes of snacks. The family members I Qian and bows down. When Simon King saw the visitor, he said, your father's eye is bothering you again. On the one hand, he received the gift, wrote a reply, rewarded the person who received it with 2 taels of silver, and the person who carried the box with 5 coins, and said, the guests are inconvenienced because of the disrespectful butler. The man kowtowed and accepted. Wang Jing whispered from the side, my younger sister told me to go to my house to see Sister I and if there is anything I can give him. Simon King asked, what is it? Wang Jing said, it's 2 pairs of shoes and hands made at home. Simon King said, how can I get Chandaner? He told Diane, I have rose cakes in my suitcase, take to cans. He gave the verbal note to Wang Jing, put on his green clothes, and followed the visitors to the mansion to see Sister I. This Simon King wrote a note and gave Shui Zhongshu a pig, a jar of wine, and 2 boxes of snacks to express his gratitude to his father-in-law. He Qian, who thanked her and said, Sir, why are you and I so careless? Wang Jing came to the house and asked Sister Hanai to come out and see her in the outer hall. Dressed like a jade tree in Kyungleen, she is naturally different from her family at home. She is better now that she has grown up. After asking about the affairs at home and taking care of the food and drinks, he saw that Wang Jing was very thin. So he gave him a sky blue silk sable cloak and 5 taels of silver to reply to Simon King's words. Simon King is very happy. While I was playing chess with He Qian, I suddenly heard a chattering voice. The doorman came to report, Dad Jia is here to pay his respects. I have brought in 2 greeting cards. The 2 hurriedly welcomed him to the hall to greet him, and He Qian thanked him again for yesterday's house incident. Duke Xia gave a 2-point satin handkerchief and wine gift to congratulate the second Duke. Simon King and He Qian thanked them again and again, and ordered them to accept it. Duke Xia also rewarded Bai Si, Diane and Wang Jing with 12 taels of silver, and seated the guests and hosts separately. After tea, let's talk about the cold and warmth together. Jia Gong said, please pay my respects to my husband. He Qian said, my father-in-law has come in. Jia Gong left another double red greeting card and said, please pay my respects to me. Please forgive me for being late. After saying this, he got up and left. He Qian immediately sent a congratulatory gift, a piece of gold satin, without saying anything. In the evening, He Qian set up wine in the garden pavilion to drink with Simon King, singing music and go into bed at the second watch. Because of yesterday's wet dream, Simon King ordered Wang Jing to take a bedding and sleep on the floor in the study. He was called to bed in the middle of the night and cuddled under the covers. The 2 mouths spit out cloves, and their tongues smelled with sweet saliva. It's exactly this. I can't have a date with Ying Ying and leave the matchmaker to satisfy my craving. Question one night. The next day, at 5 o'clock, He Qian and his entourage followed him into the court. I went to wait at the waiting court first, and when I was waiting, I opened the Donghua gate and entered. But see, the stars are vaguely forbidden and leaky, and the ring in the middle of the forbidden ring rings. If you want to know how happy the sky is today, you can see the bright purple energy of Penglai in the distance. After a while, I could only hear the 9-fold door opening, the sound of the chirping Luan, the sky opened, and I saw the majestic crown of the gong. At that time, when the emperor returned from the southern suburbs after performing sacrifices, hundreds of civil and military officials gathered, waiting to set up court. After a while, the bell rang, and the emperor came out of the hall to receive congratulations from all the officials. In a moment, the fragrant ball turned and the curtain opened. Exactly, on a sunny day, the green lock opens brightly, and the sky wind blows down the incense from the royal furnace. Thousands of auspicious clouds float on the golden tower, and a red cloud holds the jade emperor. This emperor was born with the eyes of Yao Mei and Shen Shun. Yu Bei Tengjian, extraordinary talent, eloquent poetry and rhyme, good at writing Mo Junju, able to read the Zuji calligraphy, understand the books of the 3 religions, and know the classics of the 9 streams. In his joy in the morning and evening, he is vaguely like King Mengshang of Jianji. In his love for sex, he seems to be like Empress Chen of Jinling. Now he sits on the throne, quietly blows the whip, and all the officials, both civil and military, hold the slips to their chests. Bow 5 times and kowtow 3 times to Danshi, and enter the imperial seal. The imperial edict has been passed down orally by the head of the palace. I have ascended the throne for 20 sacrifices now. Zhen Yu has been completed here, and heaven has sent down the auspiciousness. Today is the celebration of the end of the reign, and I will share it with you. Before he finished speaking, a minister flashed across the squad leader, his boots hitting the ground and his robe sleeves lying with wind. It turned out to be Kai Jingyi, the Grand Master of Changjiang Palace, the Prime Minister of Zuo, and the Grand Master of the Ministry of Civil Affairs, Grand Master of the State of Lu. The head of the elephant's lip, prostrate on the golden steps, said, "Long live, long live, long live." The ministers are sincere and frightened, and they bow their heads in reverence to the emperor. Since the 20th sacrifice of the emperor, the sea has become peaceful, the world has been prosperous, and God has sent me a warning. See you auspiciously. The war between the 3 sides will cease forever, and all the nations will come to the heavenly palace. The silver mountains are empty, and the jade capital is tall and beautiful. The treasure bamboo record is awarded in Hao Palace, and the crimson night towers deep in the Jin Palace. How lucky are you? I am so happy to meet you. In the prosperous age, communication is bright and good, and the blessings of Huafeng will be carried out forever, and they will always be exposed to the light of the sun and the moon. I can't help but look up to the sky and pay homage to the saints, and I am moved to the screen camp. I would like to offer this hymn for you to hear. After a long time, the imperial edict came down. The virtuous minister's tribute will help to show his loyalty, and I will be happy. The next year will be changed to the first year of Chang. On the first day of the first lunar month, I will receive the destiny treasure, and I will pardon and reward the poor. Master Kai came down with the order. The official at the head of the palace passed down the imperial decree orally. If you have something to do, leave early to play. But if there is nothing to do, roll up the curtain and withdraw from the court. Before he finished speaking, he saw a man leaving the squad. He turned his head and bowed, wearing a scarlet robe like a slip and a jade belt with a goldfish. He knelt on the golden steps and said, Dr. Guanglu is in charge of the Jinwu guards, Taiwei Taibao and Crown Prince Taibao Chen Chu Mayanli. 26 people including Zhang Long, the official in charge of punishment from all over the world, were invited to inspect the case. They have changed the supplements, paid and exchanged notes, and it is appropriate to introduce the memorial. I dare not do anything without permission, so I ask for an order to make a decision. So all the 26 executioners knelt behind. After a while, the imperial edict came down. Receive it as usual. Lieutenant Zhu came down with the order. As soon as the emperor's robe sleeves were stretched out, all the officials dispersed and drove back to the palace. All the officials came out from the Duanli gate. The 12 elephants left without waiting, and the generals of the town followed them and dispersed one after another. Outside the court gate, there are carriages and horses, and guards are lined up. People shout, the sea boils, and the waves turn, horses neigh, and the mountains collapse, and the earth cracks. All the criminal officials came to the court and mounted their horses, and came to the Yamen to serve. After a long time, Jian came with a seal and said, I won't enter the Yamen anymore. I have gone to the house of Master Kai and Master Li to pay winter respects. With this, all the officials dispersed. Simon King and He Qianhu returned home. Another night passed, and on the next day, I received the payment in the Yamen, registered my number, said goodbye to Butler Zai, packed my remaining clothes, packed my luggage, and got up with He Qianhu. Uniki held a banquet in the evening and told He Qianhu, please ask Mr. Simon for advice on everything. Don't do it yourself. It will be a waste of etiquette. Starting from Tokyo on November 20th, 20 people from both families followed and came to Shandong Avenue. It was already the 9th day of severe cold weather, and when the water dripped and froze, we saw some desolate roads and jackdaws on dead trees along the way. The sparse forest is light, and the sun's shadows are slanting, and the snow and frozen clouds are confusing at dusk. Before the mountains are finished, the village behind has already passed the village in front. Just after crossing the Yellow River and arriving at Bajiao town, Shuguan, we suddenly encountered a strong wind. But see, if it's not a tiger's roar, how can it be a dragon's roar? The coldness rushes to the face, and the cold air invades people. At first there was no trace, but later the fog rolled in and the clouds closed. Blowing flowers and placing willows are all white, and walking on rocks and sand makes it miserable. The blow caused the big tree to roar continuously, and the solitary wild goose fell into the deep sun. In a moment, sand and gravel hit the ground, and dust covered the sky. When the sand and gravel hit the ground, it is like a sudden rain coming from the sky. When the dust covers the sky, it is like millions of wild animals rolling in. Is it windy? It was like blowing and breaking the trees in front of the gate of hell, and causing chaos and dust on the top of Fangdu. Chang'e hurriedly closed the toad official, and Lizzie called for help from the air. It's almost impossible for the Jade Emperor to live on the top of Kunlun Mountains, and it only caused the earth to shake up and down. Simon King and He Qianhu were sitting into warm sedan chairs with felt curtains, which were blown by the wind and made it difficult to move. Seeing that it was getting late, Simon King ordered his men to find a place to rest for the night, fearing that a villain might be bumped out of the deep forest, and then go back tomorrow if the wind blows. After searching for half a day, I saw an ancient temple on the roadside from a distance, with several sparse willow trees and half a horizontal wall. But I saw the stone monument was covered with grass, and the cloister and ancient hall were half tilted. Late at night, there is no light for the guests, and it is even better to sigh when the moon falls and meditate. Simon King and He Qianhu hurriedly entered the temple to stay, with the inscription Huang Long Temple on them. I saw several monks and the abbot sitting there meditating. There were no lights, and the houses were destroyed and half covered with fences. The elders came out to ask questions, blew fire to make tea, and cut grass roots to feed the horses. After making tea, Simon King brought dried chicken, bacon, fruit cakes and the like in his luggage, and had a random meal with He Qianhu in the evening. The elder cooked a pot of bean porridge and spent the night. The next day the wind stopped and the sky cleared up. I thanked the monk for a tael of silver, said my goodbyes, and set off for Shandong. It's exactly this. Why don't you worry about the king's work? He has to travel all the way to the capital. There are no fireworks in the ancient temple at night, which makes passers-by feel anxious.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.